All right, everybody, we are back with just some updates with Dev Randhawa from Strathmore Plus Uranium Corp. I'm super excited. This is a stock that I held long before they were a partner of this channel. And here we are. We've just had two of the best trading days for Strathmore Plus. I see big green candles on my screen, which makes me happy. Dev, welcome again. Let us know, please, what in the world is going on with Strathmore? How come people are waking up to this story? What do you guys have that's so special that's warranting all this
Sure.
attention?
I think the word is value. We've talked many times before F3 ever made the discovery, it's all about the people. If you've got good people, their minds, their experiences, they can tap into those. And that's what we still have. I don't, for a very small group, we're able to have a guy like John DeJoya, who's done all these things and hands on the with boots on the ground. So I think it comes down to having good people. Um, and investors will tell you, you got to be in the right trade. You can have a great project, but the market isn't right now. Uranium and nuclear power is out there as the solution to decarbonization and energy security. So we have a good team. The overall market, I think, is getting ready. And lastly, I think to have a former producing property, however small it was, it's there. We've learned to grow that in that region plus another region. So it's a combination of why I think the stock is as high as 68 today. That's the reason is that, and the market cap's so small. Like, let's pick, you can pick a dollar on the stock. Okay. What are you at? 38 million? That's not much for a very seasoned team and good assets as we move towards production. As I said, John is so valuable in that because he's not only one of the geologists that found it, he put it in production, over 22 million pounds himself. I don't know who else comes close to that. So you've got a guy that says, okay, when we start exploring here, guys, our end goal is production. So everything we do is geared towards how do we get to production the quickest? Because I think, America is not going to make the mistakes of Germany and say, okay, well, we'll just bow down to Russia or we'll use coal, right? But America won't allow brownouts either. So I think you'll see much higher prices. Right now, the American government is paying $71 almost, I think, to the few groups there. Like Energy Fuels got 300. Everybody gets to, but it's at $70. Uranium is 50 right now. So I think we've talked about this. What's this black swan event that's going to happen? For me, if the U.S. actually is serious about cutting out, rich uranium or uranium in total, these prices will spike significantly overnight, which is not going to impact the average householder because it's 3 to 5% of the fuel, but overall part of the process, not even 2% of the cost. So uranium can go to $100 a pound, and utilities will pass those costs on, but it's a rounding error for people having electricity. There's, it's insensitive, that little bit. Unlike coal, you bring it, that's your price. Oil, that's your price. It goes, we don't have that. The overall part of the having energy that's not intermittent nuclear is that it's a very small, our yellow cake that we hope to produce is a very small part of that equation. So uranium prices can go to whatever. You and I will benefit because our stocks will go up, but the utilities and users won't do that. So
That's interesting, because at the end of the day, I remember we were talking about this a few weeks ago, that the thing with yellow cake, the stuff that the miners produce, is that that is not the thing that goes into a nuclear reactor in and of
no,
itself. It needs to go through a lot of different processes, and so in order for it to actually impact the price whatsoever, it needs to go up by multiple fold, and even then
exactly.
you're still talking about just the input for the fabricated fuel, right? And the fabricated fuel is just a portion of the actual cost that gets passed on, and so we're talking about
It's
a
insane.
small percentage of a small percentage, which means that I guess society will be better off the more we run and not walk towards nuclear. That's super interesting. So Dev, within
Yeah.
that, um talk to us about what you guys currently have within
Sure.
Strathmore, asset
Right.
wise, and
Sure.
I'd also like you to go through a little bit of what's been happening with Night Owl, because it started
Yep.
off as just a story that became
Sure.
a small land package, and now you guys are expanding it.
Sure.
If you could tell that story, please.
Sure. Well, going back, we have two ISR projects. Beaver Rim, we know there's uranium there because our people have drilled it. But in the US, when someone does work on our property, they don't have to pass it on. They can throw it out the door. So we're trying to get that information. If not, we'll do our own drilling in Beaver Rim this summer and gather. We know there's uranium there. Everybody in the basin knows it, but it was just dropped. Second is a GAT, an ISR project. Our neighbors are UEC. Um, that again, it's got over 500 holes drilled into it. This time we have all the information. Kerr McGee donated it. So our number two projects right now, as we speak, Terrence and the group and the students are putting together all that information to find out what the resource will be, and then what do we do next. But there's a whole bunch of baseline studies we've started, which we're going to continue. Our number one night owl, you know, if John isn't so kind to drive some guy to a campsite, we don't learn about this. So um, we know what we found where the producing area was using modern, because there was no modern technology done whatsoever. So we put a drone around the whole region, and what we found was that one of the lowest spots, hot spot, was the mine. We saw about six, seven other targets, much bigger, another 20 that are just as good, based on that those purple maps that geophysicists use. So we know Night Owl, we can grow it. Um, there's also players in the region that hopefully we can do some joint ventures with, toll meal agreements with. I spoke to some people in the industry, and they said, "Yeah, if you need to produce in a gap, we can help you. You can come off onto our property." So it's nice is that there's other players in the industry already there, and that brings me to the point. Wyoming has only got 600,000 people, and it's had 78% of all uranium ever mined in the states has been Wyoming. And I think it'll happen again. I've done business other places like Mexico, but there are some very military groups who are very unscientific. They'd rather see coal produced on their property, right? And then having uranium taken out of the water. That's how horrific the thinking is of some people in New Mexico. Um, so we think it's a great place to be. We've got a guy spent his whole life there. I think we have three projects that are worth moving forward um, towards production. That's our end goal, because we realize the number one thing right now America needs is own uranium production. Has to have its own supply, and I don't think they're going to follow Germany's um, path and start using coal again. I don't. There's too much fight back. So that's why you're seeing, there was a bill that went in. I think I put it on Twitter today, of what some of the leaders are doing, saying, okay, we've got our own processing. Yeah, like you said, there's 2 year gap between digging out of the ground and put it into a rod. So, yeah, that's the kind of black swan event that can make all these stocks double or triple.
And I believe I definitely was not around for the last massive bull market in uranium, but I think you were very active. What can you tell us about what happened last time, and how does it compare to what could possibly happen should
Sure.
Russian uranium come off the market?
Well, you're seeing the same kind of thing. What happened was um, there's a lot of underfeeding. So what happened and back in the last time was you had these these mega black swan events. Had the flood of sorry, the Ranger mine down in Australia, and you had a flood in Cigar Lake. That was the event. And what got it cranking uranium from 14 to $140 was financial groups came in. They could see it, right? See, financial group can buy uranium at $60, sell it at 90, make a nice profit. Utilities don't care. They'll pay 90 because it's a rounding error on what they do. So that's the biggest difference that I see is what's common. We've got a shortage. You financial players like Spot and Yellow Cake are in there cleaning up some of the overhang. The other big difference that I see is the greenies like uranium. They've accepted the fact that we're not going to get to a cleaner world without nuclear, simply because and the sun and the wind are intermittent power. and even they have backups, right? And you saw that really sad picture of Germany knocking down windmills to put up coal mines. You know, look, you got to have energy, but it's so naive of people to think, you can live off the sun and the wind. Well, you can't. You know, like even they can barely charge the cars they've got in California. Only 3% of the cars are, electricity. So I just think that what we're seeing this time, the last time was the overall greenies are going, oh crap, we need it. Um, you're seeing more general funds owning the Camicos, owning Sput because they want exposure to a clean form of energy, which is slow in the West. You know, because we're lazy. Well, yet when you come over to London and see people paying, $1,500 for their heating, you go, wow. But in Canada, we've got hydro, we got all these things, and our costs are fairly low. But it's a world is an energy crisis going on around the world, and yet, Fabi, only 5 out of 8 billion people have regular access to energy. 1 billion people have no electricity. 2 billion are in starvation with electricity. So really, those people don't want to stay poor. Hey, if it was me, I want to go out there. But if every time I do, my footprint goes up a bit. So if we want growth, we've got to find energies that are cleaner and even more importantly for the poor because they have right to food just like we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were mentioning how, uh, big people are starting to look into nuclear as a solution. I just saw that Druckenmiller's fund just bought some Cameco. So well done
Yeah,
to everybody, including us, for front running Druckenmiller. It's not very often that we can say
that's true.
that we've done that. But Dev, why the U.S.? Because I see sort of a trend here, right? I mean, um, there's sort of a sexiness to being in the Athabasca Basin. Obviously, you're
Right.
with F3 up there as well.
Right.
But I've seen that a lot of people who have had success in the basin coming into the US with different projects. What is it about the US currently for this specific cycle that's so interesting for you veterans to come and do uranium
Well,
work?
well, I think, like I said, also the first time the Democrats get it. You know, they realize they want power. They want to turn their cars on. So the two things I said before, the greenies. Now you asked about the states. The first time the Democrats, when they got in power, they weren't against nuclear. Up to that point, every Democratic president before that was, no, no, it's too dangerous. Let's stick with coal. I mean, that's exactly what's been going on. Um, you know, so that's the big thing that I see being in the states. Both parties, bipartisan, that I put on Twitter today, have said, okay, we've got to get our poop together on this matter because we can't keep kicking the can down the road and get into a situation like Germany did. They just got into an unreliable relationship, basically, with Russia. They did, and I don't think America is going to do that. So I think uranium production in the U.S. is more valuable. Same with Canada. Um, but you got to remember one time there was 40 million pounds of production in the states. Okay, they needed 4 million. Now they need 50, and they got zero. Not a single pound of uranium has been produced the last 3 years, despite all the titles you see for all these companies. Oh, we're a producing company. No, you're not. My idea of producing is you're producing, not you plan to produce, right? Um, but there's no production for 3 years. I know your energy's on its way, and John Cash and the guys, but still, we've had no production. You got the world's largest user of uranium, and they don't have their own, right? And the utilities will pay 70, 80, 90 if they have to because they have no choice. That if you don't have uranium for a reactor, you got to turn it off, and it costs a fortune to do that. So I think U.S. North American uranium is worth more, in my view, than uranium elsewhere.
One of the things to think about is that when fuel buyers come to the table, one of the most important things is not exactly price, it's security of supply, right? So they need to make sure that they're going to be able to get their hands on the fuel, and they're going to get it when they need it, right?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
that's always looking forward 5, 3, 10 years, whatever the number is, it's always
Yeah,
looking
and
forward.
unfortunately, Fabi, that kind of disciplined thinking has left the industry for a long time. I believe Fukushima's biggest issue wasn't nobody actually died from the radiation. But the real problem was Japan was the adult. Japan used to plan 3, 5 year, 10 year, like the Chinese do.
Yes.
They plan ahead. When they left, the adult left the room, and everybody started to trade on spot price. When I got in the industry, 5-10% of all uranium was spot. It was like boring a cup of uranium if you haven't got some because of nature. Well, 2-3 years ago, 50% of the uranium was spot price. 50%. That's
That's
insane.
massive.
Just tells you how short-term thinking the utilities are in North America. They just think, if you meet these guys, they think uranium should always be $10 a pound. And you try to look at them, well, how is people going to give you that? They can't produce it at 50. They're
Exactly.
very smart. I've met them. I'm not very, they're pretty smug people. But they weren't so smug after uranium went to 140. Then they were chasing it at 100. Um, I had my own experience. We were about to contract something out. Uranium was around 26 or 27. And the lady says, well, we'll take all the uranium we got for $15. I said,
Wow.
excuse me, the price is 27. Oh, come on, young man. It's going back to 10. I'm doing you a favor. And I said, well, let me help you do a favor. No. But I've seen that with others, like, but the problem is people that work for them are not entrepreneurs like you and me. Anyway, that's another topic. But to me, I'm very super glad that we've got these three great projects in Wyoming. Um, I'm looking forward to working with the university. We made an announcement, and that's really got me excited because, we've always done things in a certain way, but these young students, these young minds are going to be fun to work with. They've got all this energy, and the fellow that runs the program was in the field for a while. I think he worked for Chemical, so we're going to get a ton of help from the university um, to find different ways to explore for uranium, how to get it out, um, and that's all they do at University of Wyoming. They love uranium, so it's not like you have to go and sell them on that. So,
That's
and
beautiful.
they went to the government and got a grant because they really feel what they've got is something valuable for the industry, which we're and glad they're our partner.
That is one of a kind in the whole world. So let us know, Dev, what can
Sure,
shareholders expect next from
sure,
Strathmore? What kind of news
sure.
are you guys
Well,
working on?
well, our plan's certainly to drill all of them this year, right? The question is, our part to be Night Owl, Agat, then Beaverman. But we plan to, if we have enough money, we'll do them all because we got to learn. We got to learn what's underneath that ground. We got to find that, what makes it tick. Um, we're going to probably use some geophysics and geoscience we haven't used before. Especially this whole area has never seen any, right? So it hasn't seen any kind of modern exploration. But yeah, we're pretty excited. We're gonna these projects move them along. End goal is permitting, permitting, permitting. That's where we are. We'll do our drilling, because you can do both same time, just like other groups have done. You drill, adding pounds, and you start following your permitting. And whether you're going to produce 100,000 pounds or a million, it doesn't matter. You still need the permits. So we're doing the same thing. We will drill. you know, um, they have a winter season, but also they got some grouse that we have to be environmentally sensitive to. So there's certain windows that we can. So
Okay, that's awesome. Lots of news flow coming from all the different
thanks.
projects at Strathmore. Thank you so much, Dev. I hope to catch up with you very soon regarding Strathmore. I am biased as a partner and as a shareholder, first and foremost. So thank you very much, and I'll speak to you soon.
You got it. Thanks very much.
See ya. Strathmore Plus Uranium is SUU in Canada, SUUFF on the OTC in the US, and TO3 in Frankfurt.